Hi there, welcome to Live Code Stream, where we not only talk about programming, data science, and artificial intelligence, but we also code. I'm your host, Juan, and today we're going to learn how to create and deploy an ERC-20 token on the Ethereum network. So let's get started. So an ERC-20 token is a special kind of token within the Ethereum network. It follows a very basic implementation that is defined in the ERC-20 specification that I'm going to be linking in the description of the video for those who are interested. But an ERC-20 token will basically allow us to create a very basic contract that can create something that works as a cryptocurrency. You will be able to receive tokens and you will be able to send tokens. Now, before we get started, we need to make sure that you have all the required elements before we can start. So what are you going to need? You're going to need, first of all, you're going to need a wallet. You're going to need an account. And the wallet and the account, it is very important that for the purpose of testing, you create the wallet and the account on the test network of Ethereum. In the case you want to deploy your tokens to the main network, then you will need an account on that network. But for our purposes, when we use the test network, we see how to set that up. But then we'll also need some token-specific information, like what's going to be your symbol. For example, in the case of Bitcoin, the symbol is the BTC. You'll also need a token name. You'll need the total supply, so what is the total number of tokens that's going to be out there. What are the decimals that we allow the token to be split into, and you will need an account to also receive all the tokens that we are going to be creating. So let's now jump into my screen. For my purposes, I'm going to be using Metamask. That's going to be my wallet, and I have already my Metamask extension set up on my browser. And if you can see it here, I already have a test account. Now, creating an account in Metamask is actually quite simple. I'm not going to be covering that, but I'm going to leave a link in the description of the video where they actually show how to do all that. The other important thing is the network. So right now I'm working on the Ropsten test network. This is just a test network for Ethereum, so any money that we're spending here on fees is not actually real money, so we don't need to worry about that. So let's make sure we have that selected. You'll need an account, and then you will need some Ethereum. And this is very important because even if you are on the test network, we still need to pay some fee. Now it's going to be fake money, but you need to have the balance. So in case you don't know how to get Ethereum, you can simply Google Ropsten faucet. And the first few links, you can take any of them. We can take the first one, for example, and in here you just paste your account. So your wallet account, and then they will send you a test Ether. So you'll receive 1 Ether for free. I mean, it's just fake, right? So once you have your MetaMask already configured with your account and with at least some balance on your wallet, we can start working on the code. So I'm gonna be providing a link in the description of the video as well, a link to my GitHub. And in my GitHub, I already prepared some code that we're going to use as a basis for our work. So this is actually how it looks like. In order to work with it, we're actually going to download it. So I'm going to click here where it says raw to get a simple view of the code that I can just select everything and copy. And then I'm going to go to my favorite text editor. In my case, it's going to be Visual Studio. And I'm going to paste the code. Now this code is written in the programming language called Solidity, and Visual Studio Code provides some extensions for Solidity. I already installed one of them, so I'm gonna activate it, and now at least we have some highlighting and code completion to work with. So one important thing to notice about the code that I'm providing is that everything is ready to get it working. The only thing you need to provide is your token specific information. And that information is listed here at the beginning of the code and in this commented section. So this is the information we need to provide. We will need to provide the symbol, the name, the total supply, the decimals, and the owner account. And we are going to go through each one of them at a time. what is important is, so how do we provide that structural information? Because this is just a code that is commented, right? So this is not that if we change it here only, it will actually impact the functionality of the code. But what I did is I provided some tokens using the curly braces, so that every time we look for any instance of the symbol, it's gonna be found also in the right part of the code where it needs to be replaced. And we're gonna take advantage of that. So for each one of these variables that we have here, we're gonna copy them, and we're gonna go to the find and replace section of our text editor, and we're gonna replace it for the proper value. So in our case, we wanna create a token symbol. So we are gonna take live code stream, and then we are gonna call it token, so TK. The token symbol can be anything between 3 to 5 characters. You can use alphanumeric values. So I'm gonna create LCS TK, which is gonna be my token. So I'm gonna go and I'm gonna do replace all. So this will replace all the occurrences of that. Next, I'm gonna go with the name. So for the name, I'm gonna use live code stream token, and again, replace all. Now the next value is the total supply. So the total supply that will determine how many or what amount of tokens are going to be created. And this value is totally arbitrary, so you can set up to whatever you want. In my case, I want to really set it up to 1,000. But there's a catch, and the catch will depend on number of decimals. So let's see how would that play a little bit. So let's say I want to create a total supply of 1,000. So the maximum number of tokens in existence will be 1,000. And then I need to specify the decimals. Now the decimals is the fractions that I'm allowed to partition a token in any transaction. So let's take an example of 0 decimals. In the case of 0 decimals, what that means is that this is going to be binary. Either I have a token or I don't have a token, but I cannot have half of a token, for example. In the case of Bitcoin, if you know, you can have 1 Bitcoin, you can have 0.1 Bitcoin, 0.001 Bitcoin, so and you can get up to a Satoshi, which is a lot of zeros. In the case of Ethereum, we can specify how we want to work with our token. We can specify anything from 0 to up to 18 decimals. In the case we want 0 decimals, this is it. So we create a total supply of 1,000 with 0 decimals. But 0 decimals perhaps is not what we want. Perhaps we actually want some decimals. And in my case, I'm really interested in having 2 decimals. I think it's a fair enough and relates more to our monetary system. So let's take 2 decimals as an example. And now our total supply will need to change a little bit. So we said we want a total of 1,000 tokens in existence. But in order to do that, we need to put our number 1,000, and then we need to add on the right side 1 0 per each decimal. So in our case, we have 1,000, we add 2 zeros. No commas, no dots. You just add 1 0 per decimal you specified. So in my case, my total supply will be 100,000, which when the code gets executed and deployed, it will actually mean 1,000 tokens with 2 decimals. So if you have 18 decimals, you'll need to add 18 zeros. So let's revert that a little bit, because I was just working here on the comment sections, but I didn't actually replace the values. So let's do that. So let me copy that, and we said we want 1,000 total supply and 2 decimals, so the 2 zeros. And we're gonna do the same thing for the decimals. We're gonna go to the decimals, and we are gonna say S2. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to provide the owner account. The owner account is the account that's gonna receive all the tokens once they are created. So let's go back to our browser and let's visit Metamask to copy our address. So in this case, I'm gonna use my desk account. That's copied. That's great. And now we're gonna go and we're gonna replace this section. gonna look for, paste, and that's it. That's all that we need to do in our code in order to get it working. So the next step will actually be to take all this code and deploy it in the Ethereum network. So let's do that. I'm gonna copy everything here. I'm gonna go back to my browser. And once in my browser, I'm gonna open a new tab with the Remix IDE. So the Remix IDE is remix.ethereum.org. It's a development environment created by the people from Ethereum, where you can work with the Ethereum code. So you can work with the files, or you can create files, you can import them from GitHub, from Gits, from HTTPS. They have a different numbers of sources that you can use to get your code. But it's not only, it doesn't only allow you to work with the text or with the code itself. It also allows you to compile the code and allows you to deploy. So it's really a complete suite with everything that you need in order to work with the Ethereum network. I usually still prefer to actually write the code and work with the code in my personal editor and then import the files into Remix. But it's just a personal preference. So when you open Remix for the first time, you'll see on the screen like the one I have, and you will see on the left side the file explorer sections, and you will have some folders and some files. Now you don't worry about those. Those are coming predefined with Remix. But what we need to do is we need to create a new file. So we're gonna go into this plus symbol here. I'm gonna click there, and we need to provide a file. So the extension of the file needs to be SOL, that's for the Solidity programming language, but the name can be anything we want. So in my case, I'm gonna call it the live code stream token. And I'm gonna click OK. So once that's done, I'm gonna simply paste the code that we got from our Visual Studio, like this. And we can see also Remix provides code highlighting, so it's actually quite nice. The next thing we are gonna do is save the file with Ctrl S, and that's it. So our code is ready, but we need to compile it. So if we now go into the left side of the screen in Remix, sorry for that, I needed to refresh. So again, if you need to refresh, don't worry, your file will still be saved. Now, if we go back here again to the left side of the screen, we have this menu bar. And this menu bar, right now we are on the File Explorer, but there are a number of different options. So we're gonna go into the second section, which is the Solidity compiler. So I'm gonna click there, and now my options changed a little bit. So now I'm on the section Solidity compiler, and I can specify the compiler version that I wanna work with. So there's a number of them. You can take the default one. You don't really need to change this value. And then if we scroll down a little bit more, we have the compile LCS token.sol, or the name of the file you got. So in your case, we will need to click on compile. And once that's done, we are good to go. If we made a mistake, the IDE will let us know, and it will tell us exactly in which line we have the error, so we can go back and review what we did wrong, and we can probably fix it. So once this is compiled, now this code is ready to go. So everything seems to be working fine. So the next thing we need to do is go to the fourth section here called deploy and run transactions. So once I'm on deploy and run transactions, there are a few things I need to configure. I need to specify an environment and an account. Now these two are quite linked, at least in our case. So the value that comes by default is the JavaScript virtual machine. And then the accounts, so by default, there are some sample accounts that we need to take, or we can specify our own account. The account that we are gonna use here is actually the account that we're gonna use to pay for the fee. And that's very important. You need to make sure that the account you select here, it actually has the balance to pay for the gas fee. So in my case, since I'm using Metamask, I'm gonna change the environment, and I'm gonna select injected Web3. Now, if this is the first time you access Remix and you configure accounts with MetaMask, MetaMask will open a pop-up indicating that Remix wants to have access to the wallet. Make sure you authorize that. Make sure you are selected on the Robston network, and then you authorize Remix to access your wallet. So once you do that, your account will automatically populate. And in my case, I have this account which ends in 5175, which corresponds to the value that I have on MetaMask, 1575. Also, we can see it in the number of Ethereum that I have. So the next thing we need to do is we need to go to this contract section. In the contract section are defined all the different contracts that are specified on the file. Now, our main contract is the symbol of our token plus the word token. So in our case, ERC-20 Token. That sounds a little bit repetitive, but that's how we name it. And so in case you provide a different symbol, like let's say BTC, though you can't use BTC, it will be BTC token. The other contracts that are generated in here are simply support contracts that help for the functionality of the ERC-20 token. But this is the one we really care about. So let's make sure we select that one. And the only thing we need to do now is to click on deploy. So I'm gonna hit the deploy button. And immediately when I do that, MetaMask will open another pop-up. And in this case, it's not asking to connect to our account, it's just indicating that we are about to run a transaction, and that transaction will cost some gas. It will cost some fuel. And that fuel needs to be paid in Ethereum. So in this case, this is the value that is estimated that the cost will be. So if you are okay with this, which in our case we are, as we are again in the test network, so it's not real money, we're gonna click on confirm. And once we do that, we can see here on the console, on the bottom section of the screen, that a transaction was created. And we can click on the transaction to actually see the status. So let's do that. And when we click there, we are redirected to Etherscan, where we can see that our transaction is pending. And look at that. We just got a confirmation that the transaction has been completed. Today was actually really fast, and it got completed in just a few seconds. Normally, this process will take from 2 to 5 minutes, and in some extreme cases, it may take a little bit more. The maximum I got was 10 minutes. Now, this is Robston network. If you are on the real Ethereum network, these times could be way different. We could be talking about minutes, or we could be talking about hours, depending on the status of the network and how busy the network is at the time. So now that our transaction is succeeded, we can close this tab, and we can see here on the left side of the screen that this section changed a little bit. Now we have deployed contracts. And the contract that got deployed is actually our token contract. And if you are interested into the details, we can also expand, and we can see each one of the functions that got deployed with the contract. Okay, so let's see our wallet and see if we can see our tokens. I'm gonna head back to MetaMask. I can see that my value of Ethereum changed. So before I had 0.966, and now I have 0.9932 because of the fee. But if I go to the asset section in my wallet, I still don't see my token. Well, our token got deployed to the network, but wallets are still not aware of it. And so what we need to do is we need to tell our wallet where is our token living. So we need to go into our deployed contract section, and we need to find the contract which is deployed and click on this symbol to copy the address of the contract. So let's do that now. Let's head back to MetaMask. Now on MetaMask, there's an option called Add Token. So we can click on there. We can go to Custom Token, and we can paste our token contract address like this. So the moment you copy your address, if the address is correct and your token got correctly deployed, you will see that the two next fields got auto-populated. So the token symbol is now LCSTK, and then decimals of precision is 2. So make sure those two validate with what you did in your code. So we're gonna click next, and we're gonna click add token. So now we can see that MetaMask identify our token, and it also identify our total amount, which is 1,000 of these tokens. So now I can go back to the main screen and I can see how many or how much I have on Ethereum and how much I have on my token. So really that's it. Our token is deployed, and now we can see it, and we can send and receive our token through MetaMask. So today we learned how to create and deploy your own token into the Ethereum network following the ERC-20 standard. I hope you liked the video, and if you did, please make sure to hit the like button and to subscribe to my channel. I will be uploading more content on programming, data science, and artificial intelligence, all providing examples with code and trying to explain what I'm doing. Thank you so much, and see you the next time.